Human matched breath with an alien girl by accident, but she told him what it symbolized later. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the main character. Jack was just an ordinary guy, or so he thought. At 25, living in a small city, he had a typical job in tech and a fairly mundane life. But nothing about his life could have prepared him for the event that would change everything. It started on a regular Tuesday when he was invited to participate in an experimental program at a nearby research facility. It wasn't the kind of thing Jack usually did. In fact, it was out of his comfort zone entirely. But something about the invitation intrigued him, a sense of adventure that had been missing from his life for far too long. The experiment, as he was told, involved cutting-edge technology that tested human biological responses to unknown stimuli. He didn't understand it fully, but they assured him that it was safe and voluntary. So, Jack, without overthinking it, signed the consent form. The facility itself was located on the outskirts of town, hidden behind tall fences and high-tech security. He arrived early, a little nervous but excited about what the day would bring. As he stepped into the sterile, white room filled with machines, wires, and bright lights, he was introduced to his co-participant. Her name was Era, and she was unlike anyone Jack had ever seen. Era didn't look like the usual alien you might expect from movies. She was humanoid, yes, but her features were distinct. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent sheen, like the surface of a bubble under sunlight, and her eyes had a deep, otherworldly glow that seemed to pull you in. She wore a sleek, futuristic suit that adapted to her body, making her look both advanced and mysterious. Jack's heart raced as he sat down opposite her, feeling the weight of the situation. The experiment began simply enough, with the two of them being hooked up to various sensors. They were instructed to relax, breathe normally, and let the machines do the rest. But then, something strange happened. Jack felt his breath slow down, as if it were being synchronized with someone else's. At first, he thought it was a glitch in the system, but when he looked at Era, he saw that her chest was rising and falling at the exact same rhythm. It was as if their bodies were in perfect sync. Jack's mind raced. Was it some kind of trick? A part of the experiment he didn't know about? He turned to Era, but she simply smiled, her eyes glowing even brighter. It's not a mistake, she said softly. Our breath is matching for a reason. Jack stared at her, trying to process her words. He couldn't explain it, but it felt meaningful. The air in the room seemed to thrum with a strange energy, and Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something profound was happening between them. He opened his mouth to ask, but before he could say anything, Era spoke again, her voice calm and steady. This is a connection, she said. A sign of something deeper, something that goes beyond us. Our breath is not just air. It is a symbol. Jack blinked, confused. A symbol of what? He didn't understand. But Era's smile only widened, as if she knew that, in time, he would. As the experiment continued, Jack's mind buzzed with questions, but there was something else too, a growing sense of wonder. Whatever was happening, it was unlike anything he had ever experienced. And Era, with her calm presence and cryptic words, seemed to be the key to understanding it all. Jack sat there, still staring at Era, the woman, no, the being, across from him. Her words had hit him like a wave, and he wasn't sure how to process them. A symbol, she had said. Our breath is a symbol. What could that possibly mean? He had always thought of breath as a basic, biological function, something everyone did without thinking. But now, in this strange room, with Era's presence filling the air, it felt as though something much deeper was at play. His mind raced, his heart beating faster than normal as he tried to understand. The way their breaths matched, it couldn't just be a coincidence. Was it some kind of test? Or was there something about him that made him special? Something about Era that made this happen? I know this must be confusing. Era's voice broke through his thoughts. Her tone was calm, almost soothing. But this connection, it is not random. It is the beginning of something larger. Something that has been waiting for a long time. Jack swallowed hard. What do you mean? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Era's glowing eyes met his. And for a moment, Jack felt like she could see straight into his soul. The universe, she said, it works in patterns. Sometimes, two beings from completely different worlds, different dimensions, even, are brought together by fate. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say that the universe allows for this connection, so it can see what will happen. Will the beings understand the connection? Or will they dismiss it, like so many before them? Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. This wasn't just some experiment. He had known that from the moment he had walked into the facility, but hearing Eris speak of fate, of the universe itself playing a part in this, he was in uncharted territory. But why me? Jack asked. Why now? Eris seemed to consider his question carefully before answering. It is not always clear why these things happen, she said slowly. Sometimes, it is simply the right time for the right people, or the right beings. I cannot answer that. But I can tell you this, the breath you are sharing with me, Jack, it is more than just air. It is a bridge. A bridge. Jack repeated, feeling even more confused. A bridge to what? Eris smiled softly, her expression gentle. A bridge to understanding. A bridge to the universe itself. When two beings from different worlds connect in this way, it opens a door that allows for new possibilities, new insights. If you choose to walk through that door, you will see things that you never thought possible. Jack felt his breath quicken, but not in panic. It was more of a sense of awe, mixed with fear of the unknown. He didn't know what Era was trying to tell him, but he knew that it was important. He also knew that, for some reason, he couldn't walk away from this. Not now. Not after what had just happened. What happens if I don't understand? Jack asked, his voice shaky. Era's eyes softened. That is the choice every being must make. Some people never realize what the universe is offering them. They let the opportunity slip away. But you, Jack, you have felt it, haven't you? Jack didn't answer immediately. He was trying to grasp the gravity of what Era was saying. He had felt something, yes. Something strange. Something that made him feel both insignificant and connected to something far greater than himself. I don't know what to say, Jack admitted. I'm not sure I understand. But I feel like this is real. It is real, Era said, her voice steady and unwavering. And it is only just beginning. Jack's mind spun with everything she was saying. A connection. A bridge. The universe itself. It was all too much to process in one sitting. But one thing was certain. This experiment, this strange encounter with Era, was no ordinary event. It had meaning. And Jack wasn't sure yet if he was ready to uncover all of it. But deep down, he knew that whatever came next would change his life forever. Jack sat still, his mind racing. Everything Era had told him so far had been overwhelming. He had come into this experiment expecting something simple. But now he was part of something far bigger than himself. Something that stretched beyond what he could even begin to understand. The air in the room felt thick, charged with the energy of something unexplainable. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. But as soon as his lungs filled with air, it was like he could feel Era's breath in sync with his own. It wasn't just the physical sensation of breathing. It was as though their minds were aligned, connected in a way that was beyond science, beyond explanation. This is what I meant. Era's voice broke into his thoughts. This is what happens when two beings are truly connected. You are feeling it now, aren't you? Jack nodded slowly, his throat tight. He couldn't find the words to express what was happening. It wasn't just the synchronization of their breath. It was the way the entire room seemed to change. The space around them felt different, more alive. What is this? Jack finally asked, his voice a little shaky. How are we connected like this? Era gave him a soft smile, her glowing eyes never leaving his. It's a bond, she explained. A bond that transcends physical space, time, and even the boundaries of your world. What you are experiencing right now is a rare occurrence, Jack. It's the opening of your consciousness to something larger than you can comprehend. It's the universe's way of showing you that there is more to existence than what you can see, touch, or feel. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to understand. He really did. But the words were so far beyond him. I don't know if I can keep up with all this, he admitted, feeling overwhelmed. This is a lot to process. And you don't have to understand it all at once, Era said, her voice calm and reassuring. The connection will guide you. It will show you what you need to know when the time is right. Jack looked at her, trying to read her expression. There was something about her calm demeanor that made him feel like everything was going to be okay, even though his mind was still spinning. But why me? Jack asked again, the question that had been bothering him since this whole thing began. Why now? Why did I end up here? Era took a slow, deep breath. Because you are ready, she said simply. The universe has been preparing you, whether you realize it or not. Everything in your life has led you to this moment, Jack. Your doubts, your fears, your curiosity. They've all been part of the journey that brought you here. Now, you are at the threshold of understanding something greater than yourself. Jack felt a surge of emotion rise within him. He had never thought of his life in those terms before. He had always felt like he was just going through the motions, waiting for something to happen. But now, it felt like something huge was unfolding in front of him. So what do I do now? Jack asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Era smiled, her eyes sparkling with a light that seemed to come from within her. You keep breathing, Jack, she said softly. You keep breathing, and you trust the connection. It will guide you. Jack's chest rose and fell as he took another deep breath. He didn't fully understand everything Era had told him, but he felt something inside him stir, a desire to know more, to explore this strange new reality that had been opened up to him. Okay, Jack said finally, his voice steady. I'll keep breathing. I'll trust the connection. As he sat there, the feeling of Era's breath in sync with his own, Jack realized that something had shifted inside him. The world outside might still be the same, but inside, he was starting to see things differently. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Jack sat in silence, feeling the weight of Era's words settle around him like a cloak. The room, once sterile and cold, now felt warmer, almost alive, as if it were part of the strange connection that had formed between them. He focused on his breathing, matching it with hers, trying to understand the depth of what was happening. But the more he tried to grasp it, the more elusive it seemed. You are doing well. Era's voice broke through his thoughts, her words soft and reassuring. But remember, Jack, this is not just about understanding. It is about feeling, about being open to what is beyond the surface. Jack nodded slowly, though he still felt lost. His mind kept racing, trying to process everything that had happened so far, but nothing seemed to make sense. How had he gone from a simple tech job to this, sharing a breath with an alien being, feeling a connection that defied all logic and reason? Era watched him, her expression calm but filled with a quiet understanding. You are beginning to see it, aren't you? She asked. The connection goes beyond the physical. It is about the energy that flows between us, the way we resonate with one another. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had felt it, that energy, but he hadn't known how to describe it. It was like a vibration in the air, a pulse that seemed to come from both of them. But how do you know all of this? Jack asked, his curiosity growing. How can you be sure that this is real, that this connection is important? Era's gaze softened, and she leaned forward slightly, as if trying to make him understand. Because I have seen it before, Jack, she said, her voice filled with a quiet wisdom. Not exactly like this, but similar. The universe has a way of bringing certain beings together when the time is right. You may not understand it now, but eventually, you will see the bigger picture. Jack was silent for a long moment, his thoughts swirling. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he couldn't just dismiss what was happening. He could feel it, in every breath, in every moment they shared. There was something real here, something that went beyond any science or logic he had ever known. I want to understand, Jack said quietly, his voice tinged with determination. I want to know why this is happening, what it means. But, it's all so overwhelming. Era smiled softly, her expression kind but knowing. And that is okay, she replied. You don't need to understand everything at once. The journey is about learning, and it will take time. You have already taken the first step by being open to it. That is what matters. Jack took another deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. He wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, he felt like he was on the verge of discovering something important. Something that could change everything he knew about life, the universe, and himself. What happens next? Jack asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Era looked at him, her glowing eyes bright with an inner light. You will continue to breathe, Jack, she said softly. You will continue to feel the connection. And when the time is right, the door will open. What you choose to do with that moment will shape the rest of your journey. Jack nodded slowly, the weight of her words pressing against his chest. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew he couldn't turn back now. Whatever this was, it was just beginning, and he was ready to follow it wherever it would lead. Jack sat quietly, the weight of Era's words still lingering in the air around him. The connection, the bond they shared. He was beginning to understand that it wasn't something he could force to make sense. It wasn't about logic or science anymore. It was about trust, about allowing himself to experience something beyond his comprehension. The steady rhythm of their breathing, synchronized without effort, reminded him that there was more at play here than he could have ever imagined. Era's presence had a calming effect, like a gentle pulse that flowed through the room, soothing his racing thoughts. "I know you are still unsure," Era said softly, her eyes watching him with an understanding that made Jack feel less alone in this bizarre moment. "And that is perfectly fine. The connection is not meant to be forced. It unfolds at its own pace." Jack took another deep breath, feeling the sensation of the air entering his lungs, aware of the way it matched Era's own breath. It was becoming less strange now, more natural. He could feel it in his chest, this unspoken bond that seemed to grow with every shared moment. "How do I know if I'm ready for whatever comes next?" Jack asked, his voice filled with a mixture of curiosity and doubt. Era smiled, a small but reassuring gesture. "The fact that you are asking means you are already starting to understand," she replied. "It is not about being fully ready or knowing every answer. It is about being open, willing to explore what lies ahead. The universe will guide you, Jack. It always does." Jack nodded, though he wasn't sure if he was ready to fully accept that answer. It felt like a leap of faith. But something deep inside him, a quiet voice, one he had ignored for so long, was telling him to trust this process. He couldn't explain it, but the pull toward understanding, toward embracing this connection with Era, was growing stronger. "And what happens when this connection leads to that door you spoke about?" Jack asked, his voice steady but full of anticipation. Era's gaze softened even further, as if she had been waiting for him to ask this question all along. "That is the moment of choice," she said gently. "When the door opens, you will be faced with a decision. What you choose will shape everything that comes after. It is the moment when the path you walk can either lead to greater understanding or remain hidden, depending on how you respond." Jack's heart raced at the thought of this decision. A moment of choice, of fate, that could change everything. It felt surreal, like something out of a story, but here he was, caught in the middle of it. "And if I choose wrong?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "There is no wrong choice," Era answered calmly. "Every choice, every path, leads to growth. The universe does not ask for perfection. It asks for openness and the willingness to learn. Whatever you choose, Jack, it will lead you to where you are meant to go." Jack felt a strange sense of peace wash over him as he processed her words. It wasn't about getting it all right. It was about being open to the journey. And for the first time, he felt like he was finally ready to take that step. He didn't know what the future held or what this connection with Era would mean in the grand scheme of things, but he was starting to understand that this was just the beginning of something far greater. "I think I understand," Jack said, his voice quiet but sure. "I'm ready." Era's smile grew wider, and for a moment, it was as if the room itself brightened with her light. "Then let us continue, Jack. The journey is just beginning." As the two of them sat there, their breaths still perfectly in sync, Jack realized that whatever this connection was, it was a gift that would lead him to a place he had never imagined, to a world beyond his own understanding. And for the first time, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Jack took a deep breath, his chest expanding as he focused on the steady rhythm of his inhalations and exhalations. Era sat across from him, her presence calm and unwavering, the soft glow of her eyes a steady reminder of the connection they shared. It was still hard for him to fully grasp what was happening between them, but he knew one thing for sure. He was changing. The ordinary world he had known seemed so distant now, almost as though it had never truly existed. In this moment, he was part of something bigger. "You are ready, Jack?" Era said, her voice gentle but firm. "The connection has opened a door within you. Now, it is time for you to step through." Jack looked at her, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "What does stepping through mean? What am I supposed to do now?" Era's smile deepened, and for a moment, Jack could see something flicker in her gaze, something ancient, something knowing. Stepping through means embracing what comes next, she explained. It means trusting the path that the universe has laid out for you. You may not understand all of it yet, but that is part of the journey. You will not walk it alone. I will be with you. Jack nodded, though a part of him still hesitated. The unknown stretched out in front of him, vast and daunting. But as Eris spoke, he felt the strange pull of the connection once again, as though it were guiding him, urging him forward. He closed his eyes, allowing himself to feel the energy that had been flowing between them since the moment their breaths had synchronized. It was subtle, like the hum of a distant song, but it was unmistakable. It was there, in the air, in his bones, in his very soul. You will start to see things differently, Jack, Era continued. The connection is not just about the breath. It is about perception, understanding, seeing the world from a new perspective. The universe is not as you think it is. There are layers, dimensions, forces at play that go beyond your human comprehension. But now, you will begin to see them. Jack's heart quickened as her words sank in. He had always believed the world was exactly as it appeared. Simple, physical, and predictable. But Era was talking about something far beyond that. Something that felt both impossible and irresistible. I'm scared, Jack admitted, the vulnerability slipping into his voice. I don't know if I can handle all of this. What if I'm not strong enough? Era's expression softened, and for the first time, Jack saw a flicker of compassion in her gaze. Fear is natural, she said. It is the first response to the unknown. But remember, you are not alone in this. The connection we share will guide you, and you will find strength you never knew you had. Jack took a deep breath, the words grounding him. He felt a new sense of determination rising within him, though it was still tinged with uncertainty. What happens if I fail? He asked, his voice small but steady. Era's smile never wavered. There is no failure in the journey, Jack. Only lessons. Every step you take, whether it feels like a success or a setback, will teach you something. And you will grow. Jack closed his eyes again, this time focusing on the sensation of his breath, the rise and fall, the rhythm that had brought him to this point. Eris. Words echoed in his mind as he let go of his fear, just for a moment. I'm ready, he whispered, though the doubt still lingered, quiet in the back of his mind. But the strange sense of peace that followed his decision felt real. For the first time, Jack truly believed that he was about to take the first step into a new world. The door was opening. All he had to do was walk through it. Jack took one last deep breath, feeling the air move through his lungs, steady and calm. His mind buzzed with anticipation as the space around him seemed to change. The walls of the room faded, and for a moment, it was as if everything around him became distant. A soft hum filled the air, and the gentle rhythm of his breathing and Era's became the only sound he could focus on. He felt a strange sensation, as though he were on the edge of something vast and unknown. Are you ready, Jack? Era's voice, soft yet firm, brought him back to the present. Her words seemed to echo in the space between them, vibrating with a subtle energy that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He nodded, his heart pounding, but this time, there was no fear. There was only curiosity, a deep yearning to understand what lay beyond. I think so, Jack replied, his voice steady, though his chest still tightened with uncertainty. Era smiled, her eyes glowing with an intensity that made him feel as if she were seeing into him, past the layers of doubt and fear that had held him back for so long. Remember, she said, this is not a test you can fail. There is no right or wrong. It is simply a matter of moving forward and trusting in the connection. It will guide you, if you allow it. Jack closed his eyes for a moment, letting her words sink in. It felt like he was standing at the threshold of something monumental, something that could change everything he had ever known. He opened his eyes again, meeting Era's gaze. There was a depth in her eyes that spoke of lifetimes of knowledge, of experiences far beyond anything he could imagine. And yet, in this moment, she was here with him, sharing this strange, inexplicable bond. What happens now? Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Now, you step forward, Eris said, her tone gentle but filled with a quiet power. The universe will reveal itself to you, one layer at a time. But you must be open to it. You must be willing to see the world for what it truly is. Jack hesitated for a heartbeat, his mind still trying to catch up with the enormity of what was happening. But the connection between him and Era, the unspoken bond they shared, was pulling him forward. Slowly, he stood up, feeling the weight of his decision settling around him. As his feet touched the ground, the room around them seemed to ripple, as if reality itself was shifting. The space no longer felt like a laboratory, but like a portal to something much larger. The air felt different, charged with energy, as though the very fabric of existence was bending and stretching in response to his actions. "It's happening," Jack whispered to himself, his voice filled with awe. Era stepped closer, her presence steady and calming. "Yes," she said, her voice a soft reassurance. "You are beginning to see." The hum in the air grew louder, resonating with the rhythm of his breathing. It was as if the very universe was attuning itself to him, aligning its frequencies with his own. Jack felt a tingling sensation running through his body, as though every cell was awakening to something new, something beyond the ordinary world he had known. He could feel the pulse of the connection growing stronger, and in that moment, he understood. This was not just about understanding or knowledge. It was about experiencing the universe in a way that transcended the limits of human perception. The door that Era had spoken of was opening, and he was stepping through it. With each breath, Jack felt himself becoming more attuned to the energy around him, more in sync with the rhythm of the universe itself. He was no longer just a man in a room. He was a part of something much bigger. And as the hum in the air reached its peak, Jack realized that this was only the beginning. There was so much more to learn, so much more to discover. And for the first time in his life, he felt ready to embrace it all. Jack stood still, his heart racing as the world around him seemed to blur. The energy in the room had shifted again, and this time, it felt different, more intense, more real. He could feel the pulse of the universe surrounding him, vibrating in sync with his breath. It was as if every atom in his body was alive with a purpose, aligned with something greater than himself. He glanced at Era, who stood beside him, her presence a calming force in the midst of the swirling energy. Her eyes were closed, and for a moment, Jack wondered if she could feel it too. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, his voice barely audible over the hum that filled the room. Era opened her eyes, looking at him with a softness that reassured him. "I am fine," she said, her voice steady and warm. "This is only the beginning, Jack. You are beginning to understand what it means to truly connect with the universe." Jack nodded, but his mind was racing. Everything he had ever known felt so far away, like it no longer mattered. In its place was something deeper, more profound, and he could feel it expanding within him. He had always thought he was just a regular guy, nothing special. But now, he was part of something far bigger, something that could change everything. "What do I do now?" Jack asked, his voice filled with both wonder and uncertainty. "What happens next?" Era's smile was gentle, but there was a knowing in her eyes that made Jack feel as though she had seen all of this before. "Now," she said softly, "you let go. You let go of the fear, the doubt, the limitations you have placed on yourself. You trust the connection and allow it to lead you. The universe is ready to show you its true nature. But you must be open, Jack. You must be willing to see beyond what you know." Jack felt a rush of emotions, fear, excitement, and awe, all blending together. The hum in the room seemed to grow louder, and the air felt thick with anticipation. He wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but something inside him told him that he was ready to take that leap, to move beyond the limitations of his old life, and step into something new. He took a deep breath, feeling the connection between him and Era intensify. It was as if the very space around them was breathing with them, the energy shifting in ways he couldn't quite understand. "I'm ready," Jack whispered, more to himself than to Era. The words felt powerful, like a declaration of his intent. Era's eyes softened, and she nodded slowly, her expression proud. "You are ready," she said, her voice filled with warmth and encouragement. "Now, trust the journey. Let it unfold. The universe has always been waiting for you to take this step, and now, you have chosen to move forward." Jack closed his eyes, his body still vibrating with the energy that surrounded him. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel it, to feel the weight of the choice he had just made. He didn't know where this path would lead, or what challenges he would face along the way. But in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer the same person who had walked into this room. He had opened himself up to something beyond his understanding, something that was going to change the course of his life. The hum in the air reached a crescendo, and Jack felt a warmth spread through him, as though the universe itself was embracing him. And as he opened his eyes again, he realized that the door had truly opened. The path was before him, and all he had to do was step forward. "Let's go," he said, his voice filled with a newfound confidence. Era nodded, her smile widening. "Yes, Jack, let's go." Together, they stepped into the unknown, the door to a new world wide open before them, waiting for them to walk through. The air around Jack and Era seemed to hum with anticipation as they stepped forward, the path before them unfolding in ways Jack could not yet comprehend. It felt as though the very ground beneath his feet was shifting, adjusting to the weight of their presence. He glanced over at Era, her expression serene, but there was a fire in her eyes, a spark that told him she too was feeling the gravity of this moment. "Where are we going?" Jack asked, his voice a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Era looked at him, her smile soft but filled with purpose. "We are going where the connection leads us," she said, her voice steady, yet filled with a quiet power. "The journey is not about knowing exactly what lies ahead. It is about embracing the unknown, about trusting the path that is unfolding before us." Jack nodded, trying to absorb her words. The strange hum in the air seemed to grow louder as they walked, and Jack could feel it vibrating through his body, resonating in ways that defied logic. The room they had left behind was long gone, replaced by a new reality that seemed to stretch infinitely before him. Every step they took felt significant, as if the very act of moving forward was rewriting the fabric of the universe itself. "What will happen when we reach the end of this path?" Jack asked, the question lingering in the air between them. Era's gaze softened, and she took a slow, deliberate step forward. "There is no end, Jack," she said gently. "There is only the journey, the understanding, the expansion of what is possible. What you are experiencing now, this connection, it is a doorway, a bridge to something greater. And as you move forward, you will begin to understand the true nature of everything. The universe, yourself, and your place within it." Jack felt a shiver run down his spine as her words sank in. The universe itself was shifting, responding to his presence. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was truly part of something much bigger, something that stretched far beyond the limits of his understanding. His breath quickened as the connection between him and Era deepened, their shared rhythm becoming something more, something almost tangible, like a force that connected them both to the very fabric of existence. As they continued walking, Jack noticed something strange. The path they were on was not a physical road, but a stream of energy, a flow of light and color that seemed to bend and shift as they moved. It was as though the world itself was being shaped by their every thought, every step. He could feel it now, the pull of the universe, guiding him forward, urging him to trust the journey. "This is real," Jack whispered, more to himself than to Era. "Yes," she answered, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. "It is more real than anything you have ever known. And it is only the beginning." Jack's heart beat faster as he realized what Era had said. This was only the beginning. They were on the edge of something monumental, something that could change everything. The energy around them grew stronger, swirling in patterns that defied comprehension. Jack reached out a hand, and for the first time, he felt the energy respond to his touch, flowing through his fingers like liquid light. "What now?" Jack asked, his voice filled with wonder. Era turned to him, her expression glowing with a quiet certainty. "Now, we continue forward," she said. "We trust the connection, and we let the universe reveal itself to us, one step at a time." With a final glance at Era, Jack stepped forward, ready to embrace the journey that lay ahead. The path was open, and he was no longer afraid. He was ready to discover what lay beyond the door that had been opened, ready to understand the true nature of the connection that had brought him here. And as he took that first step into the unknown, he knew, without a doubt, that his life would never be the same again.